How do you want your time, Mara? It's done.
I believe that Rick said 20 minutes.
Right, but do you want like a little bit of a, 5 minutes, or a little
Yeah, that would
every
be great.
every 5 minutes?
No, just when it's about 10 minutes before I'm supposed to stop, like halfway through.
Just one. Okay, I'll just give you one. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe it may be 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be done, Terry, too.
We'll do. No problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
We're good. Mira, take it away.
Hi, I'm Mira, and I'm a compulsive overeater and an alcoholic. And thank you for having me here at Bridge tonight. I believe that I have always been addicted to sugar, and that I also developed alcoholism at an early age. When I was as young as under 5, I stole a cup of sugar from the kitchen and had my baby spoon and went outside and hid and ate the entire cup of sugar. And I distinctly remember how it felt, what it tasted like, how much I enjoyed it, and how all I could think of is that I wanted more. So at under 5 years old, I was already a thief. I was dishonest, and I was secretive about my eating. For me, this is a disease of more and lies. I never had enough, and I lied to you, and I lied to me. I was the youngest child of 4 siblings, and I was a spoiled, rotten brat. I was overprotected, oversheltered, and spoiled. I also was the problem child of my family. I had learning disabilities and severe allergies, and I was hyperactive. And I think the hyperactivity and the allergies were probably from the result of me binge eating constantly on sugar and unhealthy food. My father was a compulsive overeater. My mother was an alcoholic, but neither of them had a program. So neither of them were in recovery from OA or AA or any other 12-step program or any religious program at all. My home life was chaotic, to say the least. My father was a rager, and I was codependent with my mother. I was always protecting my mother from my father. I was an athlete. I was hyperactive, so I was in constant motion. And I swam competitively and did other sports. But all that ended at the age of 12 when I broke my leg on a trampoline. I broke my leg in 8 places, and I was confined to my bed for 4 weeks, and I was in a half cast for 8 weeks more. And in that period of time, because I was no longer able to be active, and also because all I could do was lay around and eat. And my mother let me do that because I was in pain and unhappy. And it was probably my first experience with depression. There were some good things that came out of that period of time in my life. I'm an artist, and I began to draw then. That was one of the things that I occupied myself with while I was in bed. But mostly it was a very sad and traumatic time in my life. I gained 40 pounds, and it began the cycle of yo-yo dieting for me. And I would eat compulsively and gain weight, go on a diet, restrict, over-exercise, lose weight, gain the weight back because I would begin eating compulsively again, lose the weight. This went on all my life until 2016 when I came back into OA for the second time and got abstinent and lost weight and have maintained a healthy body weight for 5 years now. I came into AA as a result of my being in an eating program that was put on in my hometown by the head of the Alcohol and Drug Center, the mental health center in my hometown. And I did not know that's who she was. I did not know she was an alcoholic. And I did not know that the diet program she was teaching was a 12-step based program. But all of that was true. And I was trying to lose weight. I was trying to diet. And I was trying not to drink because if I drank, I gained weight. If I drank, I ate. And one of the things I continually did while I was working this program with her and taking these classes is that I would go to Memphis, Tennessee. I lived in a small town in Clarksdale, Mississippi, which is about 70 miles south of Memphis. And I had gone to graduate school in Memphis, Tennessee. And so I had a lot of friends up there. So I would go up and I would hang out with my friends. We would go out to dinner. We would go eat. We'd go party, and I'd get drunk, and I'd overeat, and I'd eat, and I'd drink, and I'd overeat, and I'd drink, and then I'd come back home, and I'd go back on my diet, and this went on, this probably went on for about 6 months, on and off, on and off, on and off. And finally, this lady that was running the thing said, "Look, you got to stop going to Memphis." And I was like, "Stop going to Memphis? That's where my friends live." And she said, she says, "Well, I know some people that'll be your friends here in Clarksdale." And I said, "Oh, really? Who?" And she said, "They meet at this church on Thursdays and Monday nights at 8 o'clock, and it's called Alcoholics Anonymous." And I said, "Are you calling me an alcoholic?" And she said, "Yes." In the book it says you're not supposed to do that, right? You're not supposed to tell anybody that they're an alcoholic. This lady did not hesitate. And so I said, "Okay." And I went to my first AA meeting, and I shook and I trembled and I was completely in a panic throughout the whole meeting. Fortunately or unfortunately, one of my many boyfriends, I used to have a lot of boyfriends, especially people who owned bars or dealt drugs. I really liked those people a lot. And this was one of my old boyfriends, and he was sitting next to me, and he kept patting me on the hand and on the leg, and while I'm shaking, right, and saying, "You're in the right place." And when he said that, at one point, I looked up and I looked around the room, and I suddenly realized that there were all these people there that I had used to drink with, that had been in the bars and parties I went to all the time, and they had disappeared. And surprise, they were at Alcoholics Anonymous. Huh. And so immediately I felt at home. My folks were there, So anyway, I had my first drink when I was 16 years old, and I smoked pot too that first night. And I was a binge drinker, and I never knew how long I was going to drink. I never knew if I was going to black out. I never knew where I would end up. And, but then I would have periods where I was sober. And that was very similar to my eating. You know, I would have these periods where I would restrict and be good, as I used to call it. And then I would go back to my old behavior. And I called myself a party animal. I didn't call myself a drunk or anything. I was a party animal. And so I'm attending this class, and I start going to AA, and I get sober, and I get abstinent, and I go on a liquid diet, and I lose all this weight. I lost like 60 pounds. That was my abstinence at the time.
10 minutes.
And okay, and I just did the deal. I got sober, and I worked the steps, and I had a sponsor, and I sponsored people, and this went on for like 12 years. After 5 years of sobriety, I stopped going to OA, and I started gaining the weight back. I had gotten married. I had 3 stepchildren that were living with us, and I had taken my husband into my business with me. I was a potter. I was an artist and a potter. And when I divorced him, I weighed 200 pounds. And I had stopped attending AA meetings. I stopped talking to my sponsor, my AA sponsor. I was saved. I had found a savior that, you know, I didn't need the 12-step programs anymore. I was healed. I was cured. And one night I was at Ground Zero in Clarksdale, and someone walked up to me and said, "Hey, you want a drink?" And I said, "Yes." And that started a binge. I blacked out that night. I was out for 2.5 years, and it was not pretty. I ended up being isolated, locked up in my bedroom at home with a drinking buddy. And all I did was watch old movies, drink, and go and get junk food, and go to the grocery store and buy binge food, and binge and drink and watch old movies, and that's it. That was my life. And this drinking buddy of mine, he was worse than me. I always had, my drinking buddies always were worse off than I was, I thought. And I took him to treatment. And 2 days after he was in treatment, he called me, and he said, "You know, I really think you need to read more about alcoholism in the big book." And I was like, "Okay." And I did. And it brought me back to the rooms. And I got very depressed, though. I'm bipolar, and my drinking had screwed up my meds, and I was just bummed out because I couldn't eat and drink, and I got very suicidal, and so I went into the mental hospital, and they put me in an eating disorder clinic for 6 weeks for my compulsive overeating. And so once again, I rejoined OA, and I lost the weight, and was sober, and after 5 years, I relapsed. I continued to be sober, and in my 14th year of sobriety, being back in the program, I weighed 230 pounds. And I started attending ITR meetings, in the rooms meetings on the internet because we had no OA in my hometown. And I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. My first sponsor was kind of strange. I didn't really like her. She was kind of overbearing, and she wanted me to eat root vegetables. I don't even know what root vegetables are. I live in the South. I'm like, what? And so it didn't work out very well. But then I got another sponsor, and she was incredibly amazing. She lived in Costa Rica, and she surfed. I thought she was super cool. And we worked the 12 steps using the workbook. And I was very serious about my abstinence. I lost, I think I lost between 75 and 100 pounds. I'm not really sure what I weighed at my highest weight, but I have been a healthy body weight now for 5 years.
That's right.
So this is a kind of slippery time for me, you know, that 5-year point, you know, am I gonna relapse? And, you know, you guys are probably thinking, what is different this time? What's going to keep her from relapsing? And my experience today is that I have a sponsor who has a sponsor. I work the steps. I'm very involved with service work. I am the chair for my AA group here in Gulfport, Mississippi.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, and I don't eat sugar at all. My food plan is that I eat healthy meals. I exercise moderately because I don't want to over restrict or over exercise, and I want freedom from the food obsession and the compulsive eating behaviors. Recovery is the most important thing in my life. I have had some core ideas changes from when I was growing up. Today, I believe that I am not a mistake. I believed I was a mistake. And today I believe I make mistakes. And some of those mistakes about food were that they would bring me comfort, that they would help me rest, and that I deserved to eat whatever I wanted to eat. And today I eat to live. I don't live to eat. I find comfort in eating healthy and working with others and helping other people. I struggle in areas still. I tend to eat at night. I wake up in the night and I eat, and I'm working really hard on that. I don't eat unhealthy things. I eat fruits and proteins and stuff like that, but it's still in fact that I wake up in the night and my immediate thing is to eat, you know, to comfort myself. My sponsor tells me that perfectionism leads to procrastination, and procrastination leads to paralysis. And I find that has been true in my recovery. So I try to stay out of the being perfect. You know, my food plan is perfectly imperfect. Working the 12 steps has helped me understand myself better. I know that I can be selfish and extremely oversensitive. I counteract that with being of service to others and acceptance of myself as I am. And I turn my alcohol, my food, my weight, my body, the scale, and the right and the need to be right over to God. My spiritual growth has grown from believing in a God that was a punishing God to believing that it doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. And today I believe that nothing is going to happen to me today that me and my higher power can't handle together. So I just work hard at having a balance in my life and taking this one day at a time. I want to thank you for allowing me to share my story with you, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and compulsive overeater. Thank you.
Vera, great share. Great share.
Very good.
You did great.